very lively session. Maybe it's time to finally turn the meeting over to Phil. Um, uh, Phil Shapiro is an amazing community member. He was a PI member years ago, and reminds me that he and I became acquainted in the Silver Spring Time Bank. And through our relationship, Phil came back to the PI. And many of you probably remember before the pandemic, at least two different sessions that Phil came to Cedar Lane on a afternoon learners Thursday to present to us. Really interesting and useful stuff. Today's promises to be a very timely thing. And so, Phil, let me make you a co-host. And I will spotlight you, Phil, while you're talking, so we won't get any distractions. Phil Shapiro, welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm going to be talking today and showing about digital storytelling. So I work at a public library. It's my main job. I'm very interested in storytelling. It's what makes us human beings. You know, it's the oldest art form is storytelling. So we should all strive to become storytellers because you become more of yourself when you're storytelling. And all of us have very interesting stories to tell. So we ought to be exploring the stories that we're called upon to share with the world so that the world can learn from us and be inspired and be reflective. So I've created a website for this presentation with a lot of the same things that I'm explaining. And I put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat again. I put it early in the chat. It's called siteslikeGoogle.com View Digital Storytelling Basics. So you can follow along there. I use Google Sites. It's a free service for building websites. If you have a Gmail, you can make up to 10 websites for free. I have a couple of Gmails, so I can make a bunch of websites. And let me share my screen here. So I think my screen is now shared.
Yes, it is.
Good. So the main thing I'm going to be explaining today is this. Well, I'm going to be showing you about LibreOffice. LibreOffice, the reason I love it is it reminds me of the old software called ClarisWorks Draw from the 1990s. So LibreOffice is free. It works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And I use it for simple graphics work. By the way, I need to shout out to a couple of very wonderful people who joined us. Bill Wydrow, I remember you so well from the old days. You taught me so much stuff in the EdSig. Craig Harai, president of VMUG. Craig, it's great to see you here. And Aaron Davis, your answers on the email list are so useful. And I work at a public library, so I notice when somebody who's got this real zeal to explain, I give you a lot of points for all the great answers that you give out, both on the email list and here at the meetings. And Gabe Goldberg, wow, good to see you, Gabe. We go way back. So, okay, so I wanted to show you this website called Tunes to Tube. You might not have heard of this. This website does no advertising. And this website lets you log in to a Google account and then choose a graphics and choose an MP3 audio, and it will make you a YouTube video. So you focus on your storytelling. You just focus on making a graphics of any kind, and then doing some voice narration. And so I wanted to show you today how I'm using tunes to tube. And I thought I'd do something which is in response to what Jonathan once asked me. He said, Phil, what's your origin story? How did you first come to Washington apple pie? And it is an interesting little story. So I'm going to make that story here now, and you'll see how I do things. I have LibreOffice over here, and now is that showing up? Do you guys all see LibreOffice on your screen? Is that showing up? Are we still in Firefox? Sorry, the chat window's off.
It's visible.
It's visible. Got it. Okay, good. So here's LibreOffice. And I created a template with the LibreOffice draw program. Here's a little template that you can use. You can download this. LibreOffice is also a free download. So over here, I have just a nice yellow rectangle. And I want to add 2 graphics and some text to make a YouTube video. So the graphics I'm going to add is I go up to insert an image, and I'm going to put in a recent headshot for me. So I'm searching for Phil Shapiro 2023. And I'm doing a max search right here. So this is a photo of me that I can just insert. Boom. Okay, there's me. I can make this a little bit bigger. I'm holding down the shift key to keep the proportions, maybe like, there we go. Okay, so that's me. And I want to put it down here so that leaves room for a title at the top. We're going to have a text title. Then I'm going to insert Washington apple pie. So I'm going to come over here, Washington apple pie. I have a little graphics. Here it is. So here we are. So we have 2 little graphics here for my storytelling. Now I'd like to insert some text, like a title. So I go up to insert a text box, and let's try this again. Insert a text box. It's giving me the hand cursor. I don't want the hand cursor. I would like it's an X cursor to stretch out the text box. So let me try again. Maybe I have to, do I have to select the graphics? I think I can also do F2, just press F2. And no, I'm not getting the text. Let me see. There we are. There was the text. Oops, it came and went.
Did it put it behind it, Phil?
Maybe. That's it. Just trying to figure out. Here we go. Here's my text box. Okay. So my origin story for joining Washington apple pie. And then I come down by Phil Shapiro. So I want to take this. This is my text box. I'd like a bigger font. So I go like so. And I'd like to have a bigger font. There's a little tip here. You can make a bigger font. In LibreOffice, you can make a bigger font just by going Command right bracket. So that's just a little tip there. And then I'd like to open that up. Yeah, this is looking good. I'd like to bring my background up. So you can see I'm kind of mixing in the graphics and the text. Now that text is too low. I'd like to center that text, right? And maybe make it a different color. So I want to come over here to a text menu. I'd like to center the text. There we are. And then I'd like to, my text menu over here, I'd like to make it maybe red. Here, it's looking kind of nice. There we go. So here is my digital storytelling. I have a text box and 2 graphics. And make sure that it's, yeah, I don't want to. Now I'd like to take all of these 3 little objects. These are 3 objects in the graphics. And I'd like to make a single JPEG. To do that, I do select all, edit, select all, and file export. I'd like to export this as a JPEG. File export. And let's have the chat window up here. Kind of jumped on top of things. Here we are. Let's close the chat window. So over here, I'd like to click onto the selection. I only want to export the selection. I don't want to export the whole page because then I'll get a white border, which I don't want. I just want the graphics of the yellow. And then let's make a JPEG. So I come over here. By the way, this entire presentation I'm making, this is all being recorded. So you'll be able to go back. If I'm going a little too fast, I hope you're not feeling that I'm going too fast in a way that you can't go back and look at this. So I go save, and I want to replace it. There we are. Here it comes. So now I've created that graphics. It's on my computer. Now I'd like to make an audio. And for the audio, I'm going to use a web service that you might not have heard of, but it's really good. And it's called Vocaroo. It's free. Vocaroo. It's a very simple web site service where it records your voice straight from your browser. And I have my MacBook Pro here, and I'm talking right into the webcam. I'm going to get some pretty good audio, I think, talking. My mouth is maybe 6 or 8 inches from the webcam. I could also be using a USB headset, like a Logitech, and that would give me higher quality audio. Or I love recording audio with these things. This is my Olympus digital audio recorder. And it works almost like a flash drive, where after I record things, I just plug this thing into my Mac. And this particular model records in a WAV format, which is uncompressed audio. It's CD quality audio. Anyway, over here in Vocaroo, now I'm going to do my little narration, which Jonathan said he's quite interested in. How did I first come to Washington apple pie? So here it is. Here's my origin story. So my story of coming to Washington apple pie is, the year is 1987. I finished law school and I failed the bar exam, not once, but twice. So I said, I need to maybe choose a different career. And I decided that, you know, a place to go and find new careers is the public library. Walk over to the public library. So I went to the Martin Luther King Library in downtown DC, and I walked into the Washingtoniana division, the kind of the local division. And I asked the reference librarian, I said, are there any computer clubs in town that I could join? And the person said, well, there's two. There's one for IBM users and one for like Apple users. So I said, well, I'm kind of Apple oriented. I don't wear a tie. You know, people who wear a tie used to be IBM users in the old days. So I said, tell me about an Apple user group. And the librarian went over and she found in an index card. This is an old-fashioned library. And, you know, it was Washington apple pie. She handed me this index card. She goes, write down this information. So I wrote it down and I called up the office of Washington apple pie, which was on Woodmont Avenue in 1987. And I went and I joined that club. And that club actually gave me a new career because I ended up learning a lot about computers from people in the club. And not long after, I had my first job teaching computers in Montgomery County Public Schools. So Washington apple pie was my self-education route after I failed the bar exam. So I am grateful to the club because when I needed it, it was there. And I still have very happy memories. People might not know some of the earlier history of the apple pie. Is a very legendary club. When I joined, it had about almost 5,000 members or 5,500 members, I think, 1987, 88, 89. I ended up working at the Washington apple pie office. And at that time, we had members from 49 states. There were 49 different states who had members in Washington apple pie. And we had members in 32 different countries. We had members in Saudi Arabia, and they all liked getting our monthly journal. The monthly journal was in print, and it was about 140 pages, believe it or not. So those were the early days of the apple pie. And Bill Wider remembers these well, I bet. There was I guess 2 offices on Woodmont. There was the Woodmont and Battery Lane, and then there was the other one in the very expensive building. But anyway, so now I've done with my digital storytelling. I want to save it. So I have 3 minutes here. I'm going to click on the recording icon and it's going to let me save it. So I could actually listen to it again and decide, I could decide to record it again, or I'm going to save it. So I come over here and I'm going to save it as a download right here. Boom. And it just saved this thing. It's called Vocaroo, July 22nd, MP3. And MP3 is the audio format that this website, Tunes to Tube, likes. So MP3 is a compressed audio format. It's not the uncompressed, which I really love, the highest quality audio, but it's going to work for our needs. So I come to Tunes to Tube, and I'm going to sign in. And I have a bunch of different, I have a work-related Gmail, and I have a personal Gmail. This is my YouTube channel. I click in here. You have to give permission to this website to use your Gmail account. So I trust the website because I've been using them for more than 10 years, and I've corresponded. The person behind it is very responsive. Even though it's a free website, you can send email to the person who created the website. They do have a premium version that you can choose, and I have chosen the premium version from time to time, where you pay. So I'm going to choose this, and it says over here, make sure you trust it. Yeah, I trust these folks. And let me scroll down a bit.
Thanks for the testimonial, Phil.
Yeah, I trust these folks, right? Now, my screen, I need to move things around a bit so I can see. Yeah, allow. There we go. So the first thing we do is we upload the audio and we upload the image. So your image can be up to 1920 by 1080 pixels. That's called full HD. So that this particular website will not let you do 4K images or 8K images. But I have been experimenting with that. If you look at my website, I like to make 8K videos, storytelling on YouTube. But let's upload some files here. And so I first want to get the, let me first get the Vocaroo. The audio I just did, Vocaroo. It should be finding it if I search Vocaroo, Vocaroo from today. Vocaroo from today. This is, yeah, I think there was 2. There's one long one. Yeah, there's one 2.4 megabytes. That's the 3-minute one I just did. And then I had 1 or 2 tests. So these are not, the old tests are tiny, 76 kilobytes, right? So here we are. We open that up. And then we're going to upload the image, right? Upload the image, and the image, I called it LibreOffice, I think. LibreOffice. When I exported the image.
I think it's the template document.
That might be the template. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. So this is the little thing I made. I mean, I made this right before your eyes. I made that. And so there's 2 of them here. Now we just say create a video. This is really neat. Why don't I make it Creative Commons? Oh, and over here, let's give a description. So my origin story for joining Washington Apple Pie user group. Description. This story was elicited from Jonathan. Got to give credit, right? Bernstein. Here we are. And tags, we'll put in Apple user group and say create video. So now it's going to make that video. It's going to marry those two things together. And it says, there we are. Here it is. And here's the video. Boom. So we're processing the video. Now, this video is not going to take long to process because there's not much complexity. The graphics is as still and the audio. I'm predicting the whole thing will be finished processing within 2 minutes or less. So I joined YouTube back in 2005 when it was young, and things used to take longer to process in the old days. But today, YouTube has a huge number of web servers that process the video. And so I'm going to try and reload this. So it might be done by now. Almost done, almost done. So I'm hoping that some of you will give a try at making your own storytelling. I do recommend trying to create a tribute video because that's very meaningful. You might make a tribute video to any person that you want to thank. It could be a family member, a friend, a coach. It could be a member of government. So I have a member of Congress that represents me in Congress, and he's not even from Maryland. I ought to do a tribute to him. So there's a member of Congress that represents me. He was a classroom teacher for 23 years. That's why he represents me. And he also has a Master's of Fine Arts. I bet you didn't know it. There's a member of Congress with a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. His name is Mark Takano. He is out in California. So he represents me in Congress. It should be done. Yeah. Oh, come on. Yeah, here it is. It's done. And so I can take this now. Here's the neat part. I can take this and send it as an email to anybody. I can send it to my brothers and my siblings, but I can also take this same video and share. I'm going to put this on the website for this presentation I'm making. So I'm over here. So you can see how, here's my website that I've made. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to say, and the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Here is the YouTube video created during this presentation. Here's the YouTube. So over here, I'm going to select all of that and I'm going to create a link. Boom. Here's my link. And then I come up here and I choose publish. Publish. Here we go. And publish. Okay. So if you come over here to this website, the website, which is for today's workshop, at the bottom of the website, you will see a link to the presentation I made today in the past 10 minutes. Here we go. Come on, Phil, you can move this. Things get a little cluttered. Maybe I need a second monitor. Huh. Anyway, you can see it. There'll be a link at the very bottom. I'm not quite sure how I move the zoom over to the right. You will see this. And let me also throw it into the chat. So I'm going to, this is the website again. If you go to that website, you might want to bookmark it. You might want to share it with some friends. And I also wanted to talk today a little bit about the software called Audacity. So Audacity is free sound recording and editing software. It's quite popular. It works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And I like it because it takes my voice, which is not a radio voice, and it gives it greater bass and treble, and it makes my storytelling sound more interesting for people to listen to. So let me show you just a little Audacity. This is Audacity right here. And I like to think of Audacity, it's a word processor for sound. So in a word processor, we edit and we rearrange things and we transform things. So this is a tool for sound. And let's open up this Vocaroo that I did. Thank you, Aaron.
So, Phil, this is a Mac app.
Yes, this is something that we download, Audacity. Yeah. And thank you, Aaron gave us the link to Audacity. There are some people who don't like Audacity. I like Audacity because it's free and it works on all platforms. There are people I encounter who are not bad people and they don't like Audacity. People who are audio professionals, voice actors and stuff, they use Adobe Audition and they kind of look down their nose. It's kind of like a Final Cut Pro versus iMovie attitude. You know, it's hard for somebody who loves Final Cut Pro to get excited about iMovie. I happen to like them both, you know, for different reasons. So let's load up this thing over here, the Vocaroo. I'm going to search my Mac. And I'll show you how you can, Vocaroo. I want to find the one that's I'm looking for the one that is 2 megabytes. I think it's this one. I think it's that one. Let's try it. Yeah, that's it. So what you end up with over here is you end up with this sound wave where you can listen to either part of something, you can select it. You can zoom in and zoom out. So there's a magnifying glass to zoom in and zoom out. And as you zoom in, you can see these little pauses, there's little silences here. You can select those and delete. So you can tighten up your audio to make it sound more interesting because it has fewer pauses in it. But we can also go looking for some ums and ahs. Maybe I can find an and ah. Maybe that's an right here. Let me listen. So, well, nope. But if I'm listening to this, I might select something that might be an or an ah. So I select it and I just press delete, and that or ah, it goes away. So that's a
Sorry, where's the delete, Phil?
Oh, delete is on your keyboard. Just the delete key, like you would do in a word processor where you select words and you delete them.
Sure.
You can select something and just delete it, and it goes. It's no longer exists. And when I'm coaching people how to do digital storytelling, I coach children and I coach adults on this stuff. I like to make them as comfortable as possible with their storytelling to take away as much apprehension. I ask them to intentionally say and ah. So I said, I'd like you to give me a little test, a practice session, and let's put in an extra 5 or 10 ums and ahs and make them nice and long. And then after I showed them how easy it is to take them away, the intentional ones, that makes the person much more relaxed in their storytelling. So I myself stutter sometimes, and it's nice for me to know that I can take out something that I didn't intend to be part of my storytelling. By the way, there's a fabulous book about a true story of a stutterer. And the name of the book is called A Boy and a Jaguar. A Boy and a Jaguar. It's a true story about a stuttering person. And I have a book review on my book reviews website. I have a website for book reviews. So A Boy and a Jaguar. So I think that's going to cover most of what I wanted to talk about today. I hope some of you might have stopped by my website here. It's got a bunch of little tips. One very no-cost tip is before you do storytelling, drink some hot liquid like tea or, oh, Gabe, you got a question.
Well, actually, not a question. Why don't you finish this? I have a comment on Audacity,
Yes.
not specifically on your presentation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, tell me your comment, Gabe. What's up?
As a lot of people here know, I'm an outlier. I use a Windows computer, but
Right.
my house is full of other Apple accessories. That's why I belong to Apple Pie. But what I wanted to mention is that with Audacity on my Windows computer, which I like very much, with a very small little gizmo, I've connected my landline telephone to my computer. And that means that when I'm on the phone with my landline, with just a few clicks, I can record the phone call.
Oh, that is so interesting. So
And
that's a
that
tool
is
of
that is
journalism.
extremely useful and occasionally entertaining. And I live in Virginia, and Virginia is a one-party notification state. And that means that if one person on the call, that would be me, knows that the call is being recorded, which I do because I'm recording it, it's legal. And I've done that. I have two stories which I won't bother telling, when I've recorded a call because I thought it would be useful, and I thought it would be useful for the other parties not to know that they were being recorded. And one of the calls in particular, recording one of the calls in particular, turned out to be extraordinarily entertaining, because they were upset, they were making threats, and I pointed out to them that I had it on good authority, like a room full of FBI agents, that by coincidence I happened to be able to ask whether that was okay. And they said, of course, Virginia is a one-party notification state. So anyway, Audacity is a wonderful tool for whatever reason you care to, recording phone calls that you're on. And I can't do it now, but I'll send to the Pi discussion list the little phone gizmo that connects a landline phone to a computer that lets you use Audacity on your phone calls.
Gabe, that's a great tip. I didn't know about that. I did not know about that. And so that can be used for journalism, right? You can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Or investigate, and even investigative journalism.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What a cool tip. I didn't know about that. Yeah. So I can tell you one thing that's very interesting about storytelling. After you get into storytelling, you have a changed view of yourself as a storyteller. And that's a very empowering feeling when you think of yourself as a storyteller, because stories will insinuate themselves into your mind that in your free time, when you're taking a shower before you fall asleep, all of a sudden you'll say, that's an interesting story. I should maybe do something with it. And working at the public library, I believe that the more stories we share, the stronger our communities become. And we all learn, every single story has a lesson of some, or, it's something to think about. And you get to know the person who's the storyteller. Some of you saw the tribute I did to my parents. My mom saw that, and she saw herself through my eyes, and she saw a different person than she saw when she looked in the mirror. So my mom didn't think of herself as amazing, but she was. And I was able to explain that in the video. So Phil, do I remember that in your early days? Yes, Bill's asking me, yes. Bill, some of my Apple II software that I created and sold is now on the Internet Archive, and you can play it in the web browser. So I'll send out an email to the Apple Pie list. There's some logic puzzles that I designed that were quite popular back in 1990, and I sold them. And there was a school district in Iowa City that evaluated the software. They had some teachers evaluate the software, and they rated the software 5 out of 5, which it meant a lot to me. It was one person. I was a one-person software company, and the software was made in my bedroom, and they thought that it was good software. So it's still good. It was good back then. It's good today. So And Bill, you taught me stuff. You taught me stuff that I'm still using today. You taught me some logic puzzles called Sokoban. And I love those logic puzzles. So I play them. I've been playing them for more than 20 years since you taught me about them. So you might not have forgotten it. Oh, Rogue Amiga. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Good. Does anybody have any other kinds of questions? If anybody in Apple Pie creates their own digital storytelling, I could host it. Look what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to come over to this website for the presentation, and I'm going to make a new page. I come over here to pages. I'm going to make a new page here. Down here, I click on the thing page on the right. And so if anybody makes a presentation who attended today, you can send me a link. I'm stuck again because I can't see the bottom of my browser. I should be able to figure this out. There we are. Okay. So there's a little plus sign here. I'm making a new page, plus, and I'm going to say my students' digital storytelling. So you're all my students today. My students' digital storytelling. So if you create a video today of any kind, you can send me the link, and I'm going to list them here that people could come, and people who are watching this digital storytelling. By the way, I'm creating this today for the Washington Apple Pie, but I might be teaching this at other locations around town. I might take this to some public library systems here in the Washington, D.C. area. So this particular presentation and this website may well be seen outside of Washington Apple Pie. So.
Oh, Phil, did you see Sam Nutson's chat thing? He said,
No,
I used Audacity,
yeah,
but later moved to an inexpensive commercial package from Rogue Amoeba.
Oh,
Do you know that one? Fission?
I don't know Fission, but I do love Rogue Amoeba. Right? They're a company out. I think they're in Rochester, New York, and yeah. So there's a commercial package. Yes. So Sam, I applaud you for There's many tools that get the job done, and sometimes the software that you pay for is really worth it. You know, I pay for this software called ScreenFlow, and so I use a lot of free software, but I pay for software that suits my needs, and suits my budget. So I love ScreenFlow. It's commercial software that I use on my Mac. I've been using that. Believe it or not, that software was taught to me by a graduate student. I was teaching a graduate class at American University, and I was teaching screencasting. And one of my students said, "Have you heard of ScreenFlow?" I said, "I haven't." So student said, "It's great software." I said, "I'm installing it tonight." And it is great software. So ScreenFlow. If people are interested, I might do a ScreenFlow presentation, or just stop on by. I work at the public library in Tacoma Park. I'll show you some ScreenFlow. I work there from 12 to 8. So in case you're a 9 to 5 person, and if you're in Maryland, if you can get over to the library before 8, or if you can make it from Virginia, I don't mind staying late too. I'm kind of lucky. My work is my hobby. How many people can say that? Not that many. So I love Rogue Amiga. And Van, thank you so much. Thank you, Van.
Jerry Berman has a question, Phil.
Sure.
Yeah, Phil,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Before you leave, could you make a few comments about that lovely egret regret story?
Oh, sure.
Very, very sweet story. I truly loved it, and I meant to write to you. But when I saw you were presenting today, I thought this would be an opportunity for you to respond. It was very difficult to determine just how creative ChatGPT was, because we didn't know what you inputted. And
Let me tell you what I inputted.
So my question, I have a couple of questions. One, were you surprised by what it came up with, or did it pretty much fit what you had envisioned it to do? And secondly, if you were to publish this, I know you donated it, you said, but if you were to publish this, would you have to name ChatGPT as a co-author or a reference? Or are there use restrictions on using it where you can't even publish it?
Good questions, Gerald. I was astounded. I was astounded by it. So I asked ChatGPT just for fun. I said, write me a story about an egret that has no regrets. That was the entire prompt. So it wrote the entire story that I just typed in that little prompt. So I was astounded at how well it did in it. It understood my intentions, you know. It understood. So I enjoy storytelling. I would have enjoyed writing that story because it's a kind of Dr. Seuss. It's a Dr. Seuss kind of whimsy, right? But yeah, ChatGPT is pretty remarkable as a storyteller. I've been exploring it, and I'm getting more and more an appreciation of how much it can boost your creativity. I feel that ChatGPT, it feels very similar to riding an electric assist bicycle, where you're on a bicycle and there's a motor that's pushing you forward and you're also pedaling, but it's a very welcome feeling to have a motor there. Just like that, there's a motor with your storytelling. And so, I'm happy to do a ChatGPT presentation sometime, either for Apple Pie or outside of Apple Pie. I'm finding it very, very interesting. I have a website called Phil Shapiro ChatGPT Explorations, where I'm just exploring stuff. But for me, if they decide to start charging for it, I'll pretty gladly pay a monthly fee to use that, because I find it amusingly useful. I mean, for me right now, it's just amusingly useful, and that's worth my money. If I find something amusing, it's worth my money. So,
Yeah, well, if you publish, would you have to refer to them?
No, I don't have to refer to them because they stole my writing in the first place. So ChatGPT and OpenAI, they went around the web stealing everybody's creative writing, right? And now they're making it available in their intelligence. So they didn't pay to go out. They didn't pay the creative sort people who gave them the input. So definitely not. So I don't have to credit ChatGPT. I could just say I wrote it myself, and I did. I mean, I came up with the idea for the story, and sometimes with ChatGPT, I will take the text that's generated and I'll make some modifications. I'll either change something or I will add to it. And I'll tell you one thing that's interesting and also a little disappointing is that when I ask it to write a story, ChatGPT is heteronormative, meaning that if there's a couple in the story, if there's some kind of a love thing, they automatically assume that it's a man and a woman, and so that's not cool. They need to at least 10% of the population is LGBT, and so 10% of the storytelling that ChatGPT does ought to be reflective of what exists in the world. So I go in there and I fix ChatGPT, and so.
This is the limitation, Phil, that
Right.
these iterative things have,
Right.
that we somehow assume that if they take the internet as a whole, they only take the good things.
Right. Yeah, we have to be both. I'm both buoyant and cynical about OpenAI. And so, Gabe, what's up? Question?
I just wanted to ask, from what I've read, I haven't done this myself, but I've heard that you can interact with ChatGPT and give it instructions for refining what it has written. And so I wonder if you could tell it, write an egret with no regrets story where the sexes are mixed.
Yeah, I did do that. So when I was disappointed, when I wrote this one thing, oh, I wrote a story called The Cantaloupe That Cantaloupe. And so you can see how I spend my day at work. What's quite fascinating is that at my library job, I'm entitled to do whatever I want when I'm not helping the public. My supervisor says, Phil, you're entitled to do whatever you want when you're not helping the public. So I spend a lot of time reading about technology, but then I also spend time doing creative work. But now I can spend time doing creative work where I come up with a story idea while I'm helping somebody, and then ChatGPT is going to write the story. Here's the one little neat tip. I use a website called blogger.com, and I can post my stories that I write with ChatGPT. I can post them via email. So I don't even have to log in. I have a particular email address, and I send the subject of the email is the title of the blog post. And so from the moment a story idea comes into my head until that story idea is on the web, it could be less than 5 minutes. And I find that exhilarating, you know? And I've encountered some limitations with ChatGPT, some things that I tried to do and I was surprised it couldn't do. But generally speaking, I've been astounded, I have to say. I have been astounded at I'm a creative writer. I consider myself a satirist. So I did a little satire of The Old Man and the Sea. And ChatGPT knows about the story, The Old Man and the Sea. And so when I said, do a modern version of this, it totally understood what I intended. And it ended up being rather amusing. So, oh, thank you, Anne. Now, ChatGPT does have a lot of cliches. I got to tell you, after a while, you get a little tired of some of the cliches that it cranks out. But yeah, Anne, that's so neat.
Phil, have you tried any of the other generative AIs that are out and about? Have
No,
you tried Bard? I think somebody made a comment in the chat.
No, I haven't tried others because I'm kind of focusing on ChatGPT as the early, it was the early thing. So kind of like when Netscape was early, I focused my time on Netscape, even though there were other browsers out there. So I haven't tried the others. And I do have some smart friends. I have smart friends who are very cynical about Google. And I have some smart friends who are very cynical about Microsoft. And so I use some Microsoft services sometimes, and I use Google services sometimes, but I have friends who will not use anything Google whatsoever. And these are very smart friends of mine. I don't share their sentiment, but I really appreciate that they're helping me understand that they've chosen to distance themselves from large corporations. So, yeah, Google's early motto was "Do no evil," and then they decided to delete that motto. It's like, this motto is no longer working for us. We'll delete it. And so that wasn't really the right thing to do, is to change your motto on the fly. So
now, Phil, did your video end up finally loading? Whatever happened with that?
Oh, the video's up on my YouTube channel. Yes, and you can also see my video. My origin story is on the digital storytelling website I built. It's a link.
Can you show us a little bit of that, of how
Yeah.
how
How it
that
looks.
website married the video and audio?
Yeah, sure it is. It's here at the bottom. So let me close my chat window here. And if I come over here to say view this published site, down here at the bottom, there's a link. There's a link here at the bottom, and this is how it looks. I totally love the simplicity of this, because if you have the right kind of coaching, this is what a fourth grader, a digital native, could do. You could also do some very interesting storytelling like this with children and keep the videos unlisted so that the children have all the skills needed to do powerful storytelling. But the storytelling is not public. It's just shared with grandparents, uncles, and aunts. And that's called an unlisted YouTube video. And that's very beneficial to both protect children's privacy, because then they can talk about more sensitive topics than if something's going to be out in the public. So this is what it looks like. Here it is. So my story of coming to Washington apple pie is, here is 1987. So there it is. Yep. So this is the finished thing. Now, since
So what it does is just keep the graphics data as the and the audio progresses.
Right.
So when you do this, Phil, not for a demo,
right.
Is there a limit to the number of images that you can use?
Yeah, you can just use one image, I think. I think it's just a one image kind of, it's a one trick kind of website. One image.
Oh, so not more than one image?
Right. If you want to use more than one image, that's when you go and you start using some video editing software.
Okay.
So this is what I love about this is the total simplicity of one image, one audio.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an advertising or whatever uploaded in HD at the very top. So if I paid them something like $20 per 6 months, or they have 3 different plans, I could remove that thing at the very top. But I don't mind it being there, because I want people to know about the service. The service is useful. I'm very surprised that YouTube has not bought that company, Tunes to Tube. I'm so surprised they haven't bought the company and rolled it into YouTube services, because it would expand the number of people who are storytellers. You know, there's people who don't want to do video, but who want to be storytellers. So here's a graphics, and here's a narrated audio. So Google and YouTube, they could make this kind of capabilities very easily baked into YouTube, and they haven't done that. So I'm disappointed in them. And I wish there was some way I could communicate with YouTube, but YouTube doesn't really want to hear from me, even though I teach YouTube, right? They're poor listeners. These large companies are poor listeners.
Phil, have you tried to bring this to Renee Ritchie, who now works for YouTube?
No, I haven't, but I could, I could. Yeah. This particular, our session today is being recorded, so it's good for her to know that I'm a fan of YouTube, but I have no way of communicating with them something that I think they ought to know. The big companies, they ought to have a chief listening officer, because listening is learning, right? Listening is learning, and listening is a path to wisdom. But they have a low hunger for wisdom. And I know something about wisdom. I work at a public library. So, that's what I do for a living, is like wisdom, So I get disappointed when a company has a low hunger for wisdom. It means that their focus is on profit, but they're using us, but they're not part of us. We're part of them, but we're not a part of them in any way that's significant for them to learn something from us. And that's sad. That is sad when a company is not able to learn,
So may I change the subject
Yes,
briefly?
Yes.
So it sounds like Pi members would like you to return. And I wonder, at least a couple people have suggested that demonstrating screen flow would be a useful thing.
Sure. I'd like to show ScreenFlow. I use ScreenFlow in two separate ways, both to do screencasting where I record my video on the screen and in motion, but I also use it for storytelling kind of things where I'm not recording anything on the screen. I use ScreenFlow just as a basic video editor, kind of like an iMovie. I use it as maybe an advanced iMovie. I haven't used iMovie much since 2008. I used to be a big iMovie person, but I didn't transition to the new iMovie. I stopped at iMovie HD, which was 2006, I think. But then I kind of transitioned over to ScreenFlow.
Well, maybe if you might be available, what do we have coming up in August? The afternoon learners in August. I'm not sure if we're going to be in a hybrid meeting that month, but maybe that would be it. Could you do it during the day, Phil, or are
Yeah,
you
I can
working?
take off time from work, but it is somewhat of a more advanced topic. The thing I was excited about today is that the things I'm explaining, you don't really have to be a techie. You just have to have a hunger to share your story and then use these tools. So I can teach ScreenFlow, but I'm not, it's a more technical subject that might not appeal to a broader audience within Apple Pie. So, but I'll show up and maybe I'll show up and explain ScreenFlow, the very kind of basics, so that people can understand what the software is capable of. Rather than going into too much depth, I could do like the overview. So.
Also, could folks log into our Pi Attend link? I'll put another link in the chat for today's door prize.
You guys are giving away a door?
Yeah, we actually people like our doors.
Wow.
We actually give away a AirTag or an Apple gift card.
Apple gift card would be great. Let me tell you, I can't wait to get my hands on an M3 Mac. I've been using my M1 Mac that I got from Aaron Davis. I totally love it. And but the M3 Mac is going to be, it's coming end of this year or next year. And I think it's going to offer a lot of value for the dollar. So I also wanted to just, I should chime in for Diane's earlier question about her 2011 iMac. And it might be possible to switch your operating system on that iMac from Mac to Linux. And if you have Linux, which is the open source free operating system, you would have the latest browser. You would have Chrome 114 and Firefox 114. And that could potentially extend the use of that iMac. Now, Linux is different from the Mac, but it's similar enough that it's worth knowing that that computer may have more years in it than you expect. Not all of the old iMacs can run Linux. Some do and some don't. But I install it for free. So if you're able to get me your iMac, I live in Silver Spring, I work in Tacoma Park. If you're able to get it to me, I will try and install Linux on it. And then you would have, as Aaron said, it's rock solid hardware. So it potentially could be another 5 more years use from that 2011.
So maybe that old topic we should also bring back, Phil.
Yeah, well, I never tire of talking about Linux.
Do you still use Linux Mint?
I do. I use it quite a lot. I use it quite a lot. I
Oh,
like,
Phil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to, oops.
I like to put Linux Mint on a Windows Vista laptop. So the Vista laptop is a very fast laptop from 2007. It's a very fast laptop with a very slow operating system. So people think that the laptop is slow. It's a fantastic laptop. A Windows Vista laptop is fantastic. If you take off Windows and you put on Linux, Linux will go almost 3 times faster. It's immensely faster than Windows. And so if somebody's going to discard a Windows 7, a Windows Vista laptop, they might not realize that that laptop would be an ideal laptop for a refugee family, a Ukrainian family moving to the United States. They don't have anything here, or they might have one laptop for the parents, but they need one for the kids. A Windows Vista laptop with Linux could be a dream machine.
Phil, the Lenovo ThinkPad with Linux on it that you gave me is still working. I just updated it the other day.
Yeah. Linux is a little bit miraculous in how it's very humble in its use of hardware resources. And so you could use Linux even on a computer with like 1 gigabyte of memory, you know? So.
So while we're seeing if Pi members have any other questions, Pi mugs.
I hope I was able to show you today that by my sharing the story, my origin story, Jonathan has a new appreciation of how I came to apple pie. I came to apple pie because I didn't have a career. I'd failed the bar exam. Apple pie gave me a career, you know? That's a pretty incredible thing that a computer club would give somebody a career, you know?
And does everyone listening to Phil tell that story reminds me of Walt Mossberg telling exactly the same thing, Phil.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Yes, he actually has kept coming back to the Pi. He loves us because he says he learned about tech at the Pi that led to his career.
It's pretty funny. Our paths did not cross. I was just maybe 1 year after when he was very active. So I ended up writing, if you look at old issues of the Washington Apple Pie Journal, I wrote more than 50 articles for the Washington Apple Pie between 1987 and 1992, 1995. I was writing for Apple Pie in 1998.
Do you know those journals are on the website now? So
Right,
we should
yes.
find one that has one of your pieces, Phil.
Yeah, some of the old pieces actually stand up today. I'm kind of proud. You know, they call it evergreen writing, when something you write 20 years ago still resonates today.
Oh, and sorry, the other point that Phil mentioned that I wanted just to add on to is that if, for example, we wanted to put any of these storytelling videos on the Pi YouTube page, we could, depending on the comfort of people, label them link only so that only Pi members could access them. So this would be a good way to share content in our club that people aren't comfortable making public.
That is interesting. Yep. And people will be more forthright that way. You know, so we're opening up some possibilities that otherwise wouldn't exist. That's always a good thing.
Not only that, but also in the how-to videos that we make, Phil,
Right.
sometimes it ends up being more effortful to cover over the personal information in the video,
right,
and easier to just expose it to the club and not the public.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, Phil, may I take down your screen share now?
Oh, sure. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Please, please.
So here's what I wanted to share. To offer you, Phil, a handsome pie mug
Oh,
in appreciation for you speaking to us today.
oh, gladly accepted. Wow. I'll take that to work. And let me tell you, I drink tea all day long at work. So I'll be able to showcase this mug at my job. So
Well, this will be a good excuse, Phil, for me to bike over to the Tacoma Library during your work hours to deliver it.
oh, that'd be good. That'd be nice to see you there. Right. By the way, our public library, we're very Linux oriented, but I've always hoped that we'd be a little bit more Mac oriented at some time too. Diversity is a value that exists in lots of different realms. So we should value diversity in race, religion, but we should also value operating system diversity. And I've been a little unhappy that at my place of work, we're only Linux. You know, I think there really is in a public setting, they ought to have some Mac, they ought to have some Windows for the public. It makes it a little more difficult to manage all of those. With I actually don't manage the computers at my job. We have an IT department, and they're very extended. So and they're Windows specialists. So they and the Linux computers are managed remotely from a company in Calgary, Alberta. So
holy cow.
Yeah, we pay a contract, even though it's Linux, we pay a contract for their services. We have like a 3-year contract.
So Phil, when you refurbish machines to give out to people,
right.
Do you always give out Linux machines?
No,
Is that what you custom?
No, I sometimes give out Macs. I love giving out Macs, and I sometimes give out Windows too. But I'm more inclined to be handing out Linux computers. But I delivered an iMac from somebody in Tacoma Park to somebody in Hyattsville, and she was thrilled. She's using it, I think, with her children or grandchildren, and it would be this person doesn't have the money to be buying a new iMac. So I was able to get her a 27-inch iMac from 2015, and she's really thrilled with it. So no, yeah, I refurbish. I do installs of Catalina or High Sierra. I kind of moving on from High Sierra, that's no longer supported, but I do some Catalina and some Big Sur and some, because whenever a person donates a computer, they really do, they want to hear that all their data has been erased. So I tell them, I'm going to erase your data and install a fresh operating system. So.
Actually, that reminds me of the most recent refurbished story. So we got a request from a student in Woodbridge, Virginia, who somehow had heard about us for a Mac for their schooling when they weren't in a place to be able to buy it. So I connected them with the Mac Recycle Clinic. And on Monday, actually, I'll find out if this student came up to Silver Spring this past Monday to pick up a refurbished Mac from the clinic.
Aaron, I would hire you in a minute to work in a public library. You're very good at answering questions.
Do you know Van is the person, Phil,
right,
who has made YouTube how-to videos that are on our YouTube page.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, please, I want everybody to subscribe to the Washington Apple Pie YouTube channel. It costs you no money. And if you don't have a YouTube account, you should create a YouTube account with your Gmail. And you don't have to be a YouTube producer. You don't have to make videos to have a YouTube account. You can have a YouTube account where you just subscribe to people. And you're supporting people that you subscribe to, and leave comments, leave supportive comments. So I do think our Apple Pie channel needs to be stronger. I have 1,800 subscribers, and that's a pretty small number. So I'd like to see Apple Pie's numbers for the YouTube go higher.
Any way you can help us with that, Phil, would be welcome.
Yep.
Pie members, do you have any other questions for Phil?
Well, I just want to chime in with a comment that ties two things together. It ties storytelling and origin stories together. And before I forget, this was great. I had a good time with this, Phil, so thank you for this.
You're welcome,
But
Dan.
the
Yeah.
origin story deals with the only career advice that I ever got from my parents. My father was a reporter, and at one point when I was in high school, when I certainly had no sense of what my direction in career would be, he told me that if I could tell a story, if I could describe what I was doing, if I could explain why it mattered, that being able to tell a story would put me ahead of other people who might be just as good at the career, but couldn't talk about it, couldn't describe what they were doing and why it mattered. And so I took a very circuitous route. And after being a techie for several decades, I ended up being a freelance technology writer, where what I got to do was tell stories. And so, this is advice you can usefully pass on to younger people, that if they focus on being able to tell stories, it will help them in their work.
That's a fabulous tip. So, Gabe, you and I both know Stephen Von Nichols, and he worked at NASA as a computer programmer. And then one day he figured out that his programming skills were very strong, but his explaining skills were even stronger. And so he said, I'm done with programmer. I'm just going to spend my time explaining stuff. And then he switched careers from being a programmer to being a technology journalist. And you and I both know how highly respected he is.
I think somewhere in my elevator speech, it says something like, I translate techno babble into clear English. And so that's exactly what he does and what I've tried to do. And it's a useful skill, no matter what area you're working in.
I'm looking at I'm looking over here at Aaron storytelling from Professor Galloway. Yeah, storytelling. We should all be doing it more. We should all do it more in whatever way. You can compose songs. You can use ChatGPT. There's 1,000 different ways to do storytelling. I hope today was one extra way that you might explore. It can be very, very interesting, that your storytelling sparks somebody else's storytelling, that it becomes a creative contagion. And for me, it brings meaning to my life. So the more meaningful our life is, that's a good thing for mental health. There's some people who are retired. They don't know what they're going to do with their time. They should be storytelling, It should be kind of a known thing. Like if you got free time, you should be storytelling, So
I don't want to, we can't get enough of this from you, Phil. I just wanted to announce and congratulate Jim Diamond for winning the door prize for today's meeting. So, Jim, which would you like? A locator device or a gift card?
No, I've got AirTags, Jonathan, so I will take the gift card with thanks. And thanks to Phil for a great presentation and some interesting thoughts about storytelling.
Terrific.
I'm just curious, how many people before today's presentation, how many people went to see the video of the tribute I made to my parents. Was that, did we have a couple people, half of the people? People are on their way out. That's fine. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, that's such a heartening video, Phil.
Good. Yeah, I was very happy that my mom got to see it, you know, when she was alive. I think she was surprised. I think she was surprised to hear what I had to say about my parents. It was all true, you know, it was all true, but it made a difference that I was making this tribute public rather than private. I wasn't telling my mom in private, you're a great mom. I was telling my mom in public, you're a great mom, you know? And so that does make a very big difference, you know? Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I'm easily reached by email. My email's on that website. Oh, where's the tribute to my parents? Oh, it's the tribute to my parents. It's in the link for the announcement of today's presentation. And you can also find it on YouTube. Look up Mom and Dad Tribute number 2. Mom and Dad Tribute 2. You can find, put in my last name, Shapiro. You'll find my tribute. It's 2.5 minutes. It was fun to write it. It was fun to make it. I made that 20 years ago. So I can also share the link. I'll share the link right now here in the chat.
Yeah, please do, Phil.
Yeah, let me just go get it. I'm real proud of this thing. And you can share this video with your family members and say, we ought to do something similar in our family.
Sentences as he went along, all the while making it sound.
So here we go.
Terrific.
Here we are.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much.
Yeah. We should also thank Zoom. I mean, there's a company called Zoom, and I'm not spending any money with them today, and they're helping me do something good. So we should fill our hearts with gratitude. Fill your heart with gratitude. It's a good thing to do.
That might be the best last word we could possibly have today.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thanks everybody for coming today. This was so interesting, and let's all see what we can do with it.
Very much so.
Any last comments or questions? Has Ann Zabaldo come back? No, I don't see her. She said
Maybe
she was going to join from her car.
He's probably in transition. I mean, Jonathan, you were using a transcription service on Zoom that was one of their apps. I was experimenting with one of their apps that's available for a while, free for paid, those with a paid Zoom account. And that's where my so-called name tag is on my screen today. That's how that was created. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's a Zoom app called Warmly, WARMLY. And I have a paid Zoom account, so they sent me a notice that I could experiment with it.
What does that do, Dan?
Well, can you see on my screen the information where I have my name and information about me and so forth? I don't know whether that shows up.
Yeah, let me do it in speaker mode. Oh, I see. Retired U.S. Treasury / the pie.
And you can, you can do various kind of things with it, and just to, it's just trying to help people introduce themselves and so forth. For example, you can even very quickly, I can bring it up, I can bring the app up, and very quickly,
Why don't you share? You want to share and show us?
well, let me see. Let me just show you one thing first. If I go to name tag, personal. Okay, I can click on a little switch here in the area, and I can set a new name tag for myself and just display. I'd already typed it, and so it added a bottom line there: Mac enthusiast, fan of most things Apple, occasional beta tester. So you can put whatever you want in there, but it's you get to build a name tag for yourself, and you can decide what gets displayed and what doesn't, and choose different backgrounds if you want, and that sort of thing. It's one of the apps that is available in Zoom. You have to sign up through Google or sign up through Microsoft, but if you have a paid account, I think you get to use this and play around with it for a year for free. So I just installed it a day or so ago and thought I would let you guys see what it looked like. But you can type anything you want in there below your name, including interesting things like you can give people, you can display pronunciation guides on how to pronounce your name. Interesting stuff like that. But
Boy,
if
that
you
would
want,
be
I mean, I
that would be a helpful thing for sure. Why does it? I turned on apps and I see it, and it says AI name tags by Warmly. AI.
that's just well. Look, I don't know if you have a company these days, you got to have AI in the name, don't you? I have no idea what AI has to do with it. It's really nothing, but you just you have to log in and you have to sort of set it up. It doesn't take very long once you figure it out, but it's just something different, and you can have different things you can display on the screen and all of that kind of thing. It's just a way to provide a little bit more information about meeting participants and so forth. And you could, if they fill in the bottom line there, like about, like I did, you could sort of get a little bit of information about people and learn a little bit about them, even though they're not talking, even though you're just seeing them on the screen. So anyway, it's nothing that exciting, but I just thought I would point it out since it came along with the price of admission.
Well, it's a classic thing that we haven't done much with the Zoom apps yet. So it's nice to have people experiment with them.
Yeah, it looks good. Very nice.
So if I turn off my bio info and I turn on the pronunciation, it'll set my name tag and it'll change it. It's covered up on my screen with my Zoom name, but there's a pronunciation guide right there. I don't know if you can see that, where it shows you how to pronounce my last name. But anyway, it's fun, just something to play with. As Fergie would say, that's all.
So there's another app called Meeting Recaps. Has anybody used that one? That seems to have some of the same features as Fathom, but maybe I'll try that one next. Just to remind everyone, Fathom, the one that I use, generates a transcript of the meeting, but also can do a quote AI summary of the meeting. And it was when I pasted that summary into one of the meeting recaps and asked people if they thought it's something that we should use, Lawrence pointed out that in an exchange about something where he had said something wasn't right or wouldn't work, the summary had changed it to, yeah, would work. So he voted not yet ready for prime time. If I had to guess, I would guess that this other meeting recaps thing also has that. So for the next meeting, I'll disable Fathom and try this one and see if the outcome is any better.
Well, part of the problem, there's only so much that that software can do when you speak as inelegantly as I do, and tend to not be precise in my language. So, like a lot of things, operator error, I think, is behind it.
Well, I think it's good, not bad, that Zoom is not standing still and trying to introduce new things. But as always in the pie, we like to try things, even if only to conclude, nah. Well, my wife is pinging me about lunchtime. Roy, thanks so much for so quickly sending Jim Diamond the Apple gift card for the door prize for the meeting. And thanks again, everybody, for coming today. You can save the chat if you're not on a mobile device, but we will send the chat around along with the recap from this meeting.
Great meeting. See you all.
Bye, everyone. And enjoy the day. It's one of the few really nice days in a host of hot ones. I don't know, Van. I long since turned this on, but it doesn't seem to work.
Really? Mine is absolutely rock solid. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And one thing that's nice is Zoom now has a pop-up in the Zoom screen when someone raises their hand. In other words, not an add-on to the participant list where you can see that, or their people's pane where you can see it, but that's a useful pop-up, I think.
I think you're right. Yep. Jonathan, I was going to ask you, I know you got to go. I was just going to ask you a quick question.
Yes.
And we could talk about this later. When you put the announcement out regarding Phil's presentation today, I just grabbed it off of the Groups IO site. And I'm just, playing and putting it in the new Pi website that we're playing with and still working on. And one of the things I maybe want to talk to you about at some point is, not that I would be producing them, but is there a way? It's hard to read. In other words, it would be ideal if that placard could be all we had to have there, but it's difficult to read.
You mean the text in the image?
Yes. Yeah. It's behind you, what you have on Phil there. So, I mean, putting the image into the site is straightforward, but it's difficult to read. I don't know whether there's a way to refine that or a higher quality, or whether we just, it just is what it is. I don't know whether there's options there that would.
It could be your feedback is use less text.
No, actually, I like what you're saying. It's just, I don't know whether you can, it's hard to expand. It's just a little hard to read it. And that's partly because it's an image, I think, and you're trying to
depends
expand
what it depends what the quality of the image is.
Yeah.
If the quality is good enough, then you can blow it up and read it. In fact, if you open it in preview, you can also take the text out of the image and look at it separately.
Yeah, I didn't know whether or not I didn't know what you were using or whether you were making a quality choice there to keep the image small or what.
I think
Just
that's,
for example,
I think that's
for
something
example,
that groups.io does.
okay, all right. Well, then another thing we could experiment with is if you have, and again, this might happen on Weebly as well, but if you had a higher quality version of that, you could put it on the shared iCloud Drive area that we have, and I could try to import that and see if it was any different.
I'll do that actually later this afternoon. Okay.
Yeah, well, but this is not important or hurt,
Yeah.
any kind of urgency or anything.
No,
I
but
just noticed it.
thanks for pointing it out. Appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good day, everybody.